and welcome to Just Onside. It's a slightly poorly Ayub Patel today, but I will explain shortly as to the reasons why for my poor health. But OS, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ayub. I'm very well. Sunday afternoon here in Dubai. Family's coming over tonight, so I'm making a trip to the airport, Abu Dhabi airport, so it's an hour away. So I'll be putting pause on the Manchester Derby game and then coming back and just pressing play because I'm going to miss it for a little while. But yeah, family's back, so I've cleaned the apartment as you as you would imagine. But no, I'm good, very well, thank you. You're doing okay. How about yourself? Tell me.
A little bit sore, and I'll explain to the viewers as to the reasons why I'm really, really sore. I went.
It's not the reason they think. That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's compounded it actually. Yeah, so it's made it really worse. But I was away in Turkey, and there's really two reasons why most people go to Turkey these days. It's either that or that. Obviously, as you can see, there's nothing on there, which means it must be that.
Yeah.
But mine was, I mean, I still profess that it's not vanity. It was a necessity. I've got a lot of teeth missing, so I had to have some dental work done. So the process is removing even more teeth. I mean, I have hardly any teeth as it is. And the bastards removed 4 more teeth, which was painful. On top of that, they had to make a hole for the future implants. Which there's going to be about 8 or 9 implants. So obviously there's lots of holes that they've drilled. So really, really sore, drugged up to the eyeballs, which is probably the best thing considering what's happening with Leeds, because I'm a little bit numb. So I'm in a great deal of pain, but the show must go on.
The show must go on. You are a fighter, Ayub. I mean, I just wonder whether the doctors have suggested any years of kind of grinding teeth whilst you've been following Leeds' results through the highs and through the lows and
Well,
what
I
have
think
you.
if I'd have told them that I supported Leeds, it probably might have made sense. So it certainly doesn't help because I think stress never is good for your general well-being. So I think that's certainly contributed to my dental decline. But right, let's talk football. But we've got to talk about Leeds first before we talk about real football.
Well,
Uh,
let me set the scene for you, Ayub. I mean,
yeah, go on then.
it's been a tough little run. You're probably going to speak about Leeds on every podcast that we do, and rightly so. I mean, we're heading into the final knockings. Um, Obviously, a draw yesterday. Burnley picked up a well fought win. I think Coventry did acquit themselves fairly well. You'll have to give us the lowdown, and then obviously a huge fillip for you in terms of the evening game or the secondary game. Give us the lowdown. Where are you? Where's your mood at? Was it lifted a little bit with the Sheffield United result at Oxford, or are you still upset with how things are unraveling, let's say, for Leeds right now?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Sheffield United result, which obviously is a great boon for 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 us. Uh, and it sort of makes sure that the gap is, I mean, in theory, the gap's actually reduced, but in reality, you've got to take care of your own business. And we've been absolutely woeful, not just for the last 6 games. I mean, in the last 6 games, we've won one, which was a struggle against Millwall, but we've drawn 4 and we've lost 1 against Portsmouth. I mean, these were the games that when we looked at the fag end of the season, uh, everybody was sort of saying that we had the easiest running, and on paper it is the easiest running, but we've been absolutely hopeless. And I'm still angry. I'm still angry, but it's almost a different sort of anger from last week. There's almost it's, do you know when they say, what was it? The 5 stages of grief.
There's five
Yeah,
stages, 7 stages.
yeah,
What we know for sure is you're always in some stage of grief. You are. So
yeah.
yeah.
So I think a lot of us Leeds fans, there's a certain resignation that we almost accept the inevitable, which is that we're going to finish in the playoff positions. It helps that Sheffield United didn't win, but the reality is that we play Middlesbrough on Tuesday. We're going to lose. At best, we'll get a draw. The other two have easier fixtures. I mean, maybe this was Sheffield United perhaps relaxing. They've seen our result, and maybe they just took the foot off the gas a little bit because in terms of coping under pressure, they've been excellent. I mean, Burnley have been superb. I mean, you've got to give them credit. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it sort of pains me to say it, and I am in a great deal of pain, both literally and actually. But they've done what they need to do. When it comes to the crunch, this is when the manager and the players need to stand up and be counted, and they've done that. We haven't. I mean, yesterday's performance. Again, absolutely shambolic. No fight. I mean, if you'd have seen the game, I mean, I don't know whether you watched the
I
game,
saw the
but
goals.
yeah. I mean, the worst thing about this is, I mean, I've talked about Falk and his limitations, so I'm not going to say too much on that at the moment. But it's the player's desire. That's the worrying aspect because you'd expect them to be absolutely chomping at the bit. I mean, uh, Luton. I mean, even me, I've never coached at any decent level of football, but I knew the type of game that they were going to play. It was a physical game. That's what they've done. I mean, they have had some form in recent weeks, but it's a physical game that they play. I mean, they've got some big lads.
Yeah.
Falk seemed to be absolutely caught off guard. He didn't realize that this is the way that we're going to play. We were battered, we were bruised, and we were just not up for the fight. And again, this is I find this very very hard to accept that a manager can't get his players up, even if you don't play well. The mood's got to be there, the fight's got to be there, the desire's got to be there, and we've got enough quality that if we have those uh, characteristics in the game, there's enough quality that will win the game. But yesterday we were just second best, and again it was I'd say it was a fair result, which is so disappointing. And post match, you've got Daniel Fark saying he's it's a good point. For God's sake, this is a team that's 23rd, and Fark is saying it's a good point. This is why this manager is just he's the bane of my life. I hold him accountable for many of the ills in my life.
Yeah, I was going to say you have already sworn once regarding those Turkish dental surgeons. I thought you were going to swear again, to be fair. So just be careful now. No, look, one small picture takeaway, one large picture takeaway. I'll start with the large picture takeaway. I mean, look, you're right. Burnley have come on strong. They're on a really good run. Obviously, got an incredibly strong base. I would imagine they've probably still got the best defense in all of the English leagues, even right now, after that crazy run where they didn't concede for like best part of 3 months or whatever it was. Um, so they are obviously at the top of you, but you'd agree that obviously with there being a 2 point gap right now, that's important because obviously if they were to draw a game, you were to win a game. Again, just for the sake of it, goal difference is still in your favor. Now their goal difference has improved
Mm.
over the last 6 to 7 weeks. So they've been eating into that huge goal difference advantage that Leeds have. But I'd still say it's worth a point right now, Ayub. So who knows? That come the final standings, that may well still be something that Leeds can cling on to. But you're right, the form needs to turn around quickly. There's one small picture takeaway, Ayub. I don't know if you followed it. I did read about. Is it Salomon's miss? I heard it was a shocker. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, yeah. And this is why, I mean, he's a Premier League player. He's an international. And this is where you want your big players in big moments to deliver. And that really is. I mean, I don't think he's had a goal or assist in the last 8 games. So his form's certainly tailed off, as has many other players. But it was a bitty game. And that's really when he needed to step up to the plate. And but it's systematic of everything that's wrong with Leeds United Football Club at this moment in time. The players are not up for it. When key moments come, they'll fluff their lines. And just as a final word, uh, uh, in the post match, we've got this player called Laji Ramazani. Now he was playing in Spain in the La Liga. He's scored a goal, I believe, last season at the Bernabeu. So he's a player with pedigree, and he was sensational. He started the season on fire.
Hmm.
A lot of the sides that we played against, their fan base were raving about him, saying, "Who's this guy?" And he was almost the replacement that we wanted for Somerville. He then had an unfortunate injury. He was out for about 8 weeks. He's come back, and I think since the start of the year, he's played about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And again, this is a huge criticism of Fark's inability to rotate, keep the team fresh. Players are spent. And he came out in the post match with comments about he needs to. And I think it was more about his attitude, Ramazani's attitude. Now, to me, if you're a player of that caliber, now he would get into any side in that championship. Now he's hardly got any game time. No, you're not going to be uh, somebody who's going to be sort of with a smile on your face. Now you're going to have a bit of an attitude. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I'd like a little bit of surliness if you're not getting game time. Too many players sometimes just go with emotions. No, sometimes have an attitude. sort of think that he should be playing. This exactly sort of is similar to what happened last year with Jed Spence. Jed Spence, who's been, I think, Spurs Player of the Year, I
That's
thought
not
wasn't good enough.
that's
Wasn't
not
good enough.
that's not
He
saying much.
wasn't good enough. And then, yeah, I mean, that is the caveat. But for Falk, Spence wasn't good enough. And in the end, it was an acrimonious
It wasn't.
uh, sort of departure. Uh, but again, that's a criticism on Falk. And also, Connor Roberts. We had Connor Roberts, who's at the moment part of the meanest defence in English football. He couldn't get any game time last season. So this is the problem with Falk, his inability to identify ability, his inability to, if they've got difficult characters, deal with them. Now, Spence is doing sensational work at Spurs. Now, obviously, Ange is struggling, but somehow he's got a tune out of Jed Spence. So it's a season that again I predicted it. I called it. I've called out Falk, and now there's so many Leeds fans who are jumping on the bandwagon that I was riding a year and a half ago. And I hope you apologise as well, because you've been defending Falk, always saying, you're top, you're top. You're not top anymore, my friend.
Yes, I mean, yeah, Fat Lady hasn't sung yet, but she's certainly warming up her vocal cords. So I'll see. Let's see how the season. I mean, listen, you've still got critical games to go, so let's see. You're right. Your form's not great. You need probably a good confidence boosting win, which would be a huge win, wouldn't it, in midweek if you can get it. So let's see. I mean, you're right. There's a huge amount of pressure on all three teams right now. Again, the gap between the third place team and the sixth place team is going to be significant. So it's going to be a huge blow, let's be fair, if you have to go into the playoffs. Let's hope Leeds can avoid that. I'll let you set us up. We want to talk a little Manchester Derby and a little bit of the Champions League preview. Set us up. Go on.
Yeah. Well, just before we talk about the Premier League and the big Manchester derby, just on the Championship, it is the best show in town. If you're a neutral, it is damn exciting. Complete contrast to the Premier League, which I think is probably the most boring Premier League I think I've ever experienced. Because the bottom three, it's signed, sealed, and delivered. They're down. In terms of who's won it's a boring league. So we've got to have to now almost like find sort of moments where perhaps we can indulge ourselves. And today perhaps is one of those days where it's a Manchester derby. It's probably not got the flavour, the spice of previous years, but still it's a game that's always going to attract interest. And what's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, and talk about Kevin De Bruyne as well, who obviously has made the announcement. He's been a fabulous servant. So a little bit about Kevin De Bruyne, and then just the Manchester derby and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, in the last podcast that we spoke about, I threw some questions and statements at you, and we agreed that De Bruyne was obviously going to be leaving, and it looks like what we settled on seems to be the preferred destination, Saudi Arabia. Some even talk about the second division, but let's see. Still some interest from the States. Incredible player, absolute pantheon great when it comes to Premier League midfielders. He will go down as one of the greatest midfielders in the history of the Premier League. Jamie Carragher has him in a Premier League all-time 11. We should probably do that at some stage. When he said the comment, I was like, ooh, that's... I mean, he is incredible, but I'm thinking about there's only a few spots there in an all-time 11, and already I was thinking about your Lampards, your Gerrards, and others. So maybe one for a future show. But yeah, incredible. I won't use the word servant, but incredible player for Man City. Probably been part of two different teams, let's say. Or at least two different teams, maybe even three during his time at Man City. Delivered in all the big moments. Many, I thought, quite recklessly or childishly accusing him of, missing some of those crucial moments. You remember he went off injured against Chelsea in the Champions League final. He then obviously, I think, went off injured, I believe, if memory serves, in the Inter Milan game as well. But I think that's just poor luck. But big moments, I'll forever remember him, at least in a Man City shirt, for that wonderful assist to Gundogan delivering that the last Premier League title, or the one before last, in that amazing comeback against Aston Villa, 2-0 down, 3-2. Big players need to stand up, and stand up. He did. Top player. And I think just in terms of, forget the talent that he is and his productivity. Nobody strikes a ball as good as him, at least in the history of the Premier League. There may be some comparable, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Beckham, and others alike, but nobody strikes it better than he does. In terms of putting it in that corridor of uncertainty from that inside right channel. But I think when you think about the beautiful game, when you think about entertaining football and things that you see on a football pitch and that only some players could do. I always say if you put these footballers into like mannequins or you grade them out, you'd be able to tell, oh, that's a Kevin De Bruyne pass. And I think that's probably the biggest compliment we could pay him. City will miss him. He's not the player he once was.
Mm.
He's not the force he once was in terms of his power because he was that, I guess, that unusual combination of power, strength, but incredible technical ability, incredible athleticism, and obviously now in his advancing years, that's definitely winning. But top player. Just looking ahead quickly to the Manchester derby, it's a big game, probably more so for City. I think Ayub, you'd agree. For United, it's pretty much a lost season. They've obviously got, I think, Europa League game on Thursday against Lyon, which is important. But I think in terms of, I think it's Europa League or Conference League, I don't even follow it. But they've got for Man City, however, looking at the results and in that kind of hunt for Champions League spots, this is quite a critical game for them to try and pick up some wins. Obviously, they'll still be smarting at you from that defeat against Manchester United at the Etihad. Obviously, a huge comeback win right at the end. Obviously, Ahmad's not playing; he's out for the season. But City will be looking out for revenge. It's a game they can't really afford to lose. I think a draw's fine, but they definitely can't afford to lose. As you said, I think games are obviously now reducing in number. We're coming up to the final stretch, so I think every result's critical right now. And it would be a travesty for Man City if they weren't in the Champions League next year. I mean, when they're doing their, as you always say, KPIs and targets for the forthcoming year, this doesn't come up on the agenda. This idea that we're not in Champions League football, that income's already accrued for, that revenue's already accounted for. So they'll want to be in the Champions League. I think Champions League, the UK, I think the Premier League gets an additional spot potentially this year, which should help them in that hunt. But yeah, they need Champions League football. That's the height of their ambition this year, as much as obviously they'll be wanting to win the FA Cup as well, which will still be, I guess, in amongst what is a shocking season from Man City standards. If they win a trophy and they get Champions League football, they'll look and say, look, let's park that and let's go again next year. But just quickly on the Manchester United side of the ledger, I mean, you gave them the kiss of death, didn't you, last time when I mentioned about 2026 and where they'd finish, and you said, "Yeah, I'm starting to see some things," and they rightly went out to Nottingham Forest and lost 1-0. But I mean, they played fairly well in terms of between the thirds or in those middle thirds. Just obviously couldn't quite convert huge opportunities at the back end of the game as well, clearances off the line and the rest of it. But it's been a lost season. I think they're languishing in 13th. I think they can't, even with a win today, they wouldn't move away from that position. I think they're 4 points away from 12th. So they're going to have a really shocking season in the end. I think it's fine in the sense of new manager. I mentioned, obviously, I think he should get all of next season as well. But at some point, and he's admitted as much in his pre-match interview that he's done, I think, with Melissa Reddy, where he's spoken about, look, even I won't accept it for myself. I wouldn't be able to handle it. So I like that. I like that type of commentary, putting all the pressure on himself. It's not this season where there'll be a referendum on Ruben Amorim. I think there'll be more questions asked perhaps next season. He's spoken about the summer window. I still can't see how they can make huge improvements. They'd have to hit on every transfer. You know that does not work out like that. There's a transition period depending on where you bought the player from. It can be a bit of an adaptation. He's not coming into a necessarily confident team. So there's lots of potential for, let's say, more of the same. So difficult. It'd be a huge win for United if they can pick up and do a double over Man City this season. But I feel like I sense it's a slightly bigger game for Man City in that regard.
You're right. It is. I mean, I think in terms of importance, it's certainly more important for City. But I think it's, in one sense, it's also an opportunity for Amorim at Manchester United, because it gives them an opportunity where these are almost competitive friendlies, because the season's a write-off. So, and I think everybody's accepted that really he's preparing for next season now. But these are competitive games, but it is that opportunity, right? Let him, and I hope he does that. I hope he's trying to sort of make sure that, right, these are competitive, friendly games in a sense, because there's nothing to play for. But it's an opportunity to play against good, strong opposition in the Premier League. For him to try and sort of instill his philosophy on the players. I mean, I hope what he's doing now is those that are going to stay are getting game time every single week. Those who obviously he's going to sell, there's no point. It's absolutely pointless. So it's an opportunity. I mean, it's albeit it's a write off of a season, but there's still something to salvage for him. Because as I said, it's normally most coaches would say, oh, I'm waiting for the summer to recruit, but he's in a sort of fortunate position where he can try things out without really any scrutiny. Because if he loses every single game, nobody's going to say anything now. So really, he is in that position. I mean, I think at the start he wanted to try and make an impact. That's gone now. I think everybody's sort of resigned to the fact that look, forget this season. So. I hope he's doing that for Man United's sake, and he seems a smart guy, and I'm sure he is. But you're right in terms of importance. It's a must-win for City because for them, it's unthinkable for them to not be in the Champions League. Now, I think with the fact that there's going to be additional teams in the Premier League allowed to compete, it probably makes it easier. But it's a disappointing season for Man City. I think for Guardiola, he wants to finish on a high, just to take a little bit of momentum into next season. But I'm sort of I would normally say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm quite indifferent to it because, as I said, it's a season that for me is ended. I mean,
Yeah.
really, what I look for is the winners and the that's done.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't worry, I think next season when Leeds come up, there'll still be important games being played April and May. Don't you worry about that for
don't,
yourself.
don't it's we're going to be playing Wrexham next season, and I'm looking forward to that. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yes, indeed. No, look, you make a good point. The game doesn't have the same allure, does it, in terms of years gone by? And that's symptomatic of the seasons that both teams have had. Man City normally at this stage would be maybe a couple of points ahead at the top of the table, and what have you, and still firing on all cylinders, waiting to play the Champions League quarterfinals because that's what Man City do. And United, at least maybe not in recent years, but you'd think, yeah, they'll be fifth or sixth and still very competitive and what have you. I mean, like you said, it's been an incredibly poor season. I just want to ask you a question, Ayub. I've been adamant that in an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world, but in an ideal world, Amarim would be given all of next season just to really start still. I mean, kind of root out some of the problem players that he has, the players that he doesn't think can contribute to success over the midterm, and slowly start to bring about a style of play. But just a quick question: do you? I mean, that is just idealistic, isn't it? I mean, when you're at a club at like Manchester United, he's gonna need the currency of wins just to keep fans on side because you can't at a big club get everybody to buy into perhaps the same patience and the same vision that I'm perhaps outlining or that we're perhaps suggesting that look, give him a little bit of time. I mean, at a big club normally you do still need to pick up wins, don't you, just to keep fans on side and keep the board from getting a little bit shifty. I mean, if he has, let's say, 12 to 18 games next season, are you where they're still languishing, let's say, in 12th or 13th? Uh, what would you say? You'd suggest, I guess, the scrutiny is going to become increasingly heightened, wouldn't it?
And rightly so. And I think for the reasons I've already given, because he's now in a fortunate position that he's got till the end of the season, and obviously pre-season as well. He'll buy. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how much recruitment Man United will do, but he's in a fortunate position now where it's almost there's no pressure. He's in a position to work out to understand the players that he wants, the players that he doesn't want, the system. He's got ample time. So when the next season starts, it's not as if it's a manager who's been recruited in the summer, who's had a short time to prepare. He's a manager who's had ample time. I mean, I was thinking that it was a wrong choice to bring him sort of mid-season. But I think it might turn out to be, I'm not sure, obviously it's not an intentional masterstroke, but it probably might work out to be the case because he's had a season to understand the Premier League. He's seen the competition. He understands the football club, the expectations. He obviously has had a chance to look at the players, assess them up close and personal. So he will be in a really good position come the summer where he can say, right, these are the players I want to keep. These are the players I want you to ship out. And obviously, with the recruitment, by the time that the season starts, I would be saying, right, you've had a great opportunity to set your store. And I would be expecting that. I think if there are losses, then I think rightly so. There should be criticism exactly for what for the reasons that I've given.
Yeah, the challenge is the worry I have for him. It's a worry simply that they have such issues. Yes, they've got some players missing, so they're gonna need health. So they're just gonna need a little bit of good luck at the start of the season next year. I just worry that recruitment's never an exact science, is it? And you're not gonna hit on all your transfers. The other worry that you might have is that you lose perhaps a player, maybe two players that you don't necessarily want to lose because if you do have normally what happens is when it happened to Leeds in a very different kind of context, maybe, but when you go down, you lose your best players. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Now, United haven't gone down, obviously, but you wonder whether or not a Fernandez does look at things in the summer and think, okay, how long do I have at the top of my game and at the peak? Now he's their best player. I think you'd agree with that, and he's had a good season. But you wonder whether players like that do start to think, I'm wasting some of my best years. And I say wasting, but he'll be thinking, I can play at the European elite. I can play at the top, looking to deliver titles for European clubs. So that would be the worry, wouldn't it, Ayub, that you might lose a player or two that you don't necessarily wish to lose.
Well, he's the only one I can think of. But I don't know. I mean, United still is a huge club. It's one of the biggest clubs in world football, and I think Fernandez understands that. Now, it depends on what the assurances are. Now, if there's not going to be investment, then maybe perhaps Fernandez might just say, "Well, look, this club is not sort of on the same page as me." So I'll probably make a move. But if he's assured that, look, we are going to invest, there is still quality there. I mean, I've absolutely no doubt in my mind that there is enough quality there at the moment. Not complete quality to challenge, but certainly enough quality to build upon. And I think Amarin's a great manager. I think if he gets and you talked about it not being an exact science. I don't think it's that recruiting players. I really don't. I mean, I think you look at sort of the hit rates of certain coaches. Certain coaches always virtually get it right. It's about 90% due diligence. You look at the not just the ability of the player, but you do proper due diligence where you look at them in key moments. You look at them when the pressure's been on. You look at them, right, have they played for a big club? These are sort of assessments that you have to do. It's the problem always with Leeds. I always bring it back to Leeds, and it's a heavy shirt for a lot of players. And they may be great at Rotherham, but when you come to Leeds United, it's a different ballgame. So that's really why, for me, when you buy untested, untried players or players that have played for smaller clubs, it's a risk. That's where the risk is. But what you've got to look at is look the character. When you speak to them, look them in the eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's an interesting one that you've raised just very quickly. We've slightly deviated off topic, but I don't know if you followed the story this week of Brandon Williams, the former Manchester United footballer, obviously played, I think, at Norwich, then Ipswich as well. Obviously, I think he's potentially looking at a jail sentence for, I think it's drink driving or dangerous driving or what have you, or some drive-related offence. I was just reading about it, obviously, this week, and I mean, I'm not saying every situation's like that, but I'm saying this is what I mean. A young player, a big talent, obviously looked the part also for United in the games that he played, yet obviously couldn't necessarily control some of his off the field situations, let's say, and developments, and then obviously went off the rails. I mean, there's no two ways about it, and now finds himself facing a jail sentence. I'm just saying, to that extent, there is so much element. It's not just, hey, can this player contribute for us, but you're looking at the team that you have, the structure that you have, the shirt. You're absolutely right. The league that you're coming into, where he's going to be staying. Is he coming with family? Is he not coming? What's his character? I mean, I'm just saying
Mm.
there's so many variables that will ultimately determine whether a player is successful or not. I just mean you're one or two are going to fall by the wayside. The only bit I would disagree with you actually, Ayub, is I don't think there's a great deal of potential in that squad. There's some players that look right on paper, let's say, in terms of credibility and credentials and what have you. But these are two back-to-back seasons, are you, where they're going to have a negative goal difference. I mean, you are who you are, no? I mean, if one season most people would accept is a sufficient enough sample size, they say the league table doesn't lie. Well, it definitely doesn't lie 2 years in a row. If the stuff you've put out there is pretty much consistent. I mean, negative goal difference back-to-back years, are you? That's below average. That's who you are. So you are who you are. Probably going to lose. I mean, you've seen obviously Rashford pulling up a few trees at Aston Villa, which is perhaps a bit galling for United fans. But yeah, I just think their path back to success, I probably even underestimated at what point that they're at. I think they are pretty much very much at the bottom. I think the Radcliffe interview highlighted that. I think some of the subsequent results have highlighted that. And I've mentioned this many times before, but there's other clubs now that are well positioned and well versed to compete with United for that kind of even below the Champions League spots. They're better positioned, better placed. League managers, they're doing well run off the pitch, on the pitch. So yeah, I think they've got a long way to go. I think if they were to miraculously, and I say miraculously, get Champions League spots next year, he's done an incredible job. I don't think it happens, but I think that just goes to show how far they've fallen, really.
Right, okay. Just my sort of final word on this. I mean, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility because I do think it's such a massive club that really they've still got that allure. They'll still be able to. I mean, I am absolutely convinced that maybe if United went in for an Aston Villa player, that they'd be tempted. And Aston Villa have had a fantastic season. They've got a really good coach. They're going places, but this is the pull of Manchester United that even though they're in the doldrums and they have been for a number of years, there's still that pull, there's still that appeal. Even though
They
it's
pay the big bucks, man.
no, no, that helps. That helps certainly. But again, it's the iconic Old Trafford. All even the weekend, but still, there's a great appeal to it. So I'm sort of, I think if I was a United fan, I'd be quietly optimistic. But again, it's decisions. Decisions have got to be right, and I think the decision making in the past has been absolutely woeful. So if you get it right, then I see no reason why challenging for the top four is not a possibility. Right. Talking about top four, uh, when you finish top four, or five or six. It depends on how things are going. You qualify for the Champions League. Your beloved Arsenal are there, looking quite close to getting to the final now. So, what's your thoughts on just not Arsenal but Real Madrid and the other teams? Is that what's your thoughts on who's going to win it and who's going to sort of make the headlines?
Yeah, it's look, I think we both asked this question the other day, and I think I positioned it to you, and you suggested that Real Madrid will win it. I think was your uh, statement, and I think I kind of tentatively agreed. Um, Look, I think the more I've thought about it, the more time has passed coming into the quarterfinal stage. And you're right, let's look at it kind of overall on the overarching piece. It really is there. I was even thinking yesterday when Aston Villa were beating Nottingham Forest that even Villa will be thinking, well, PSG, I mean, yes, even PSG, although they've been resting players, I think they clinched the League One title. I think they've won by a record points total, but we know what we think about that particular league. But they rested all their players, all their best players. But even Villa will be thinking, well, PSG haven't won this competition before, so there'll be some nerves with regards to PSG as well. They're not that particular dominant team where you can't create opportunities against them. Arsenal beat them earlier on in the Champions League. Yes, they were a little different team, no doubt, but even Liverpool created opportunities. I mean, that second half at Anfield, I thought Liverpool created many opportunities, and I'm just shocked that they didn't score. So Villa are in a good run of form. So when I look at that particular tie, I was thinking yesterday that even Villa will be thinking there's a pathway where we try and get through PSG. Of course, it's going to be difficult, but Unai Emery, you've got his European experience in European competitions, albeit mainly the Europa League. But it's like you mentioned, Ayub, he's a manager you can go to the table with when it comes to these big games because he'll have you prepared. He'll have some wrinkles to the game plan, let's say, and then they will be thinking, well, if it's Real, fine. If it's Arsenal, well, we've done okay against Arsenal in recent times. So you suddenly start to even dream a path for an Aston Villa in a sense to get to the final. Once you're in the final, I mean, it's a one-off game. I mean, it's what you always talk about with the playoff finals when it comes to the championship. So I think Villa just firstly have a great opportunity. I think they'd have felt a little bit perhaps more cautious if it was a Liverpool, let's say. But I think the fact that it's European competition, PSG, I think Villa will still think they've got a second leg at home, Ayub, which could be important if they can head into that second game level, or maybe even just one goal down, they'll fancy creating, and it'll be one of probably, if not the best or the biggest tie that Villa Park has seen in a sense for their home side many a year. So you can imagine they'll pull out all the stops in a sense to make it an incredible atmosphere. And Villa Park is that type of place that
Mm,
can get rocking.
mm,
So I think their pathway is not to get beaten comfortably away from home. Try and stay in the tie, let's say, by the odd goal, and bring it to Villa Park with a chance to turn it around and turn it into a raucous atmosphere. I think they've already picked up. I think they beat Bayern Munich, didn't they, in the group stages? I think at home, John Duran, I think, scored. So they've had some big nights already this season in European competition, none more so than perhaps in a week's time when they come for that second leg. But obviously, the glamour tie is Arsenal, Real Madrid. I think there's no two ways about it. Huge miss with Gabriel going off with a hamstring injury against Fulham. He's out for the season. Critical player, Yub. When you head into I text one of my good friends, someone you know as well, Ayub Dennis, Real Madrid supporting Dennis, and I text him that Gabriel's a little bit like Ramos light in the sense of, obviously, I regard Sergio Ramos as one of the best central defenders that I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. Gabriel's maybe not quite on that level, but it's like a lighter version in the sense of his aggression, in the sense of the way he plays, his front foot, happy to give the odd occasional foul
mm,
away, so no issues. But you need that, I think, when you're going up against a finesse team, and it will be Mbappe, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Junior, I imagine. You're going up against a slightly finesse team. You need somebody on the front foot.
mm,
That's why him and Saliba complement each other so well, because Saliba's the one who's kind of sweeping and what have you. And Gabriel's incredibly aggressive with his duels, with his headers, and with his kind of general challenges. So he's a huge miss, Ayub. You're going up against Real Madrid. Uh, in relative terms, they own that competition, so you need your best team available. So they're not going to have their best team available. They've obviously not got a striker. The league's obviously gone some time ago. I don't think they were ever in that title race, but they've got a huge opportunity, don't they, Ayub? I mean, it's two games. Real Madrid recently have shown a vulnerability. They lost yesterday 2-1 at home against Valencia, conceded four in midweek against Sociedad, just about got through to the Copa del Rey in a Copa del Rey final in a huge effort. Incredible game. So they're conceding goals on Real Madrid, and there's a vulnerability there. Can Arsenal turn around their kind of general default position of being quite cautious and being very risk averse to actually playing to score and create opportunities? That will play into Real Madrid's hands, of course. But that's the chicken and egg game that you have to play. So huge game for Arsenal Football Club. My general prediction is that they'll fall short, just because I think you do need your best team available. If you're going to play Real Madrid, you want your best team out there if you're going to stand any chance. Real will score, obviously. I think there's no two ways about that. So I think the first game is where it's at. Arsenal need to somehow turn that into a raucous atmosphere, get the crowd behind them, and they have to, in my opinion, take an advantage into the Bernabeu, into the second leg. But huge opportunity, obviously, on the other side of the ledger. You've got Bayern Munich, you've got Barcelona. I fancy those two clubs to come through. Barcelona having an incredible season, Ayub, still on for the treble. They're well positioned in the league. They got a draw yesterday, but they're still well positioned in the Copa del Rey final and well positioned in the Champions League. So huge opportunities. If you asked most neutral observers, they'd probably say Real, PSG, Bayern, Barca will be the semi-finals. But it's why we play the games. And I think it's a huge opportunity for the English clubs. And I think, like I said, I think Villa will be okay, but I don't know what your thoughts are. I think they'll be okay taking a narrow defeat going into the second leg. Arsenal, I think, have to take an advantage into the Bernabeu next week.
I think the English sides that are in the tournament have probably the most appropriate managers for this competition. I think they're both. I mean, Arteta. I mean, I criticize Arteta, but I do think he's an excellent tactician. And same with Emery. I mean, Emery has got a proven track record, and I think this is what you need. I think the difference between English Premier League and these European tournaments is that it perhaps becomes a tactical. It's a game of chess sometimes, even though you, in a sense, know. I mean, Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, their modus operandi is on the front foot. So in a sense, you know what they're going to do. I think all three teams are defensively, I won't say weak, but there are chinks in their armor. And Arsenal and Aston Villa. This is where I'm looking forward to what Emery and Arteta do. Gabriel is a huge miss. It's a massive miss. You're absolutely right. in games of this magnitude, you need big players, not just your best players, but players who've got the
Yeah, yeah,
mentality. I think
yeah.
Gabriel is a true leader. He's a warrior, and I think that's the thing that I always am impressed with Arsenal, that you've got four or five leaders within the group. Uh, that's again, I'm going to talk about Leeds. This is what we sadly lack. There is absolutely no leaders. You look around when the chips are down and
How
everybody's got their
how
heads down.
how have you managed to shoehorn Leeds into a Champions League quarter-final conversation? Anyway, we digress. We digress.
So I'm really looking forward to how Arteta approaches it. It's that sort of sticker twist. It's if you're just going to sort of say, right, we're going to nullify your potency up front. Is that the best method, or is it a combination of both? That right, we've got to be defensively sound at least for the first 40 minutes, 45 minutes first half, maybe expand in the second half. So I'm just looking forward to it. I think Arsenal have got just as good a chance as any in that group. Now, I think they need to be at the top of the game. That's the thing. I think you can have a team like Real Madrid on 80% and still win. With Arsenal, they have to be at 100%. Everybody has to be playing well, and certainly their big key players need to be performing. So I'm talking about Saka. Saka needs to be absolutely on song. Or Odegaard needs to be absolutely on song. And defensively, I mean, that's the one thing that I am always, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be confident of that they're very organised. I don't know. I mean, you just you made a face there.
You mentioned earlier about Gabriel. That's what I was thinking. Yesterday, I mean, look, it's a game they should have won against Everton. I thought it was a very soft penalty. I'll save my comments for that. But even for that incident, Ayub,
Mm.
Kiwior chose to duck under a long ball, which then put Miles Lewis Skelly in a difficult position with one of Leeds' own, Jack Harrison, which led to the penalty. Now, it's that kind of incident that makes me think. See, on the one hand, Gabriel, he never lets things go behind him. He's taught if the ball's in the air, you go meet it, you go head it. And you mentioned about the warrior mentality, and you're going to need that against Real. You need to be able to put your foot in where it's going to hurt, put your head where it's going to hurt, be that kind of over my dead body type mentality,
Mm.
which he has. He loves defending. There's
Mm.
one thing which is he's good at it, but he actually loves the idea
Yeah.
of defending. Whereas Kiwior at that particular juncture, and he had a fairly good game, don't get me wrong, but he always finds incidents and situations where he'll make a really poor decision. Like I said, letting a long ball bounce, which you're taught at amateur level that you don't let a long ball go over your head. Absolutely not. You go meet it. So it's little things like that that would worry me. I'll let you get back to your train of thought, but I'm with you on the Arteta thing. I think this is a huge game for him. To be able to showcase. Look, I think Arsenal are a very good team. I think they're a bit short in terms of what you'd need just at the very top in terms of that caution that I often speak about. They need to introduce calculated risk into their game in terms of speed of play, speed of thought, instinct to play with certain patterns as opposed to just methodically throttling the other team to try and see if you can create something with minimal risk. So that's going to be the next level that Arteta has to unlock for this Arsenal team, generally speaking. But it's a huge opportunity, irrespective of who's missing. You've got two games against a team that's beatable. They lost yesterday at home. They're
Mm.
going for the league title. They didn't have any issues. I mean, they brought Rodrigo off the bench, but other than that, they were playing as good a team as they could. Yet they've conceded two at Bernabeu, four at the Bernabeu in midweek. So it's not a team that's firing on all cylinders. They can be got at. Now, whether or not Arsenal have the tools to get at them, I'm confident most likely that it's going to be Martinelli, Marino, and Saka up front, in my opinion, with Partey, Odegaard, and Rice in the middle of the park. The question, I guess, comes down to who's going to play at centre back, partnering Saliba. I think it's going to be Miles Lewis Skelly and most likely Timber on the fullback position. So it's going to come down to Kiwior White, let's say, who's going to play then. Maybe Kiwior's natural left-footed tendencies may well lean towards him. So look, they're going to have a competent team out there. I think they need to turn it into one of those nights, don't they? You where the crowd gets into it. You perhaps get an early goal. You Real are going to have opportunities, but you'd think Arsenal are going to have opportunities. And in games like these, Ayub, when you want to get through to the next round and you know every chance is going to be critical, and you're thinking
Mm.
Bernabeu is going to be an incredible cauldron to try and get through the competition away from home at the Bernabeu in the second leg. I do think they probably need to take an advantage. They need to be in the game. I mean, at the bare minimum. I think they'll just come up short just because it's Real Madrid, and I think at the Bernabeu second leg, that's a difficult place to go and get a result. So let's see. But incredible opportunity. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the it's just because Real Madrid, I think, have just played more bigger games, and I think that's perhaps where. Because I think in terms of, I mean, certainly Real Madrid in terms of their offensive play are sensational, and it's probably the sort of the best in world football. But I think when you just name the team that you think will play, apart from Gabriel, that is a damn good team. That's a team that, if you're standing side by side in the tunnel, there are strong characters. These are not characters who's going to be intimidated. And I think that's at least part of it because you can lose the game before you even set on the pitch. Certainly, I don't think this team will lose the game before they set on the pitch because I think they've got some strong characters. The only concern is when it's come to the crunch, they've not delivered. And I think that's probably psychologically, same with Arteta, that when it's mattered, he's come up short. So I don't know whether that will be the case
Mm.
again.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think what you're suggesting is that, and this was the, if you remember, this was the question asked when they played at home to Liverpool. I mean, they had their entire backline out before the game, and then during the game they lost Gabriel as well. So they had an incredible makeshift team at the back end of that game, and obviously drew the game 2-2 with Salah scoring. But the question was asked that did they retreat too early in that game when they were 2-1 up? Now, there were mitigating circumstances because of the backline that I mentioned, because of the situations that arose during the game, in terms of missing key players. I think they were missing obviously Odegaard for that game as well, I believe. So there were some circumstances, but the accusation level that Arteta, I watch every single Arsenal game. I think the issues are slightly bigger, but the accusations are that he even when they find themselves ahead in situations, they very much think from a protection point of view. And you're right, they don't go for the jugular. They're not a jugular type of team. Now, in the good old days in the Champions League, when you think about your Milans and your Juventuses in the good old days, you'd say that's the perfect approach, which is why you rightly pointed out that these coaches, Emery's, the Artetas, they might well be suited for this type of situation. Two-legged affair, you've got to try and maneuver your way through the good old days with Mourinho and Benitez. But I just think this time, I don't think caution's going to win out. I think you have to be playing with a certain pace and risk. Doesn't mean you leave yourselves open, but you still have to play with a certain approach to create opportunities. Let's say play vertically. Real are a team that struggle when you get passes through vertically and get people in behind. So they're not a mean defense by any stretch of the
Mm.
imagination. They will give you opportunities. But one thing you can't do is be timid in the face of that and say, well, we'll just knock it around, take zero risk, keep like 6 men, 7 men behind the ball. You're not going to create any opportunities like that. Real Madrid will see that out every week, twice on Sundays. So, yeah, I think the opportunity is there for Arteta to create a certain game plan, which is going to introduce certain risks into the game and take something into the Bernabeu. I don't have any qualms that Arsenal can't get something at the Bernabeu, but I think they have to go there, be relatively in charge of the affair. I think if it's already in Real Madrid's back pocket, and then you're asking for Arsenal to go there and create opportunities to try and arrest a two-goal deficit, you're getting too far away from your default kind of way of playing, and you'll probably you'll come up short. I have Arsenal coming up short. I think I have a worry that they'll probably lose both legs, maybe the second one slightly heavily, just because Real know this competition. They feel comfortable in this competition. So that's from an Arsenal perspective. Just very quickly on the Villa thing, more and more I think about it, the more I think Villa do have a great opportunity. And honestly, like even ahead of Arsenal, you'd say to yourself, what a story that would be if Villa somehow got through to the semi-finals of the Champions League. And for a lot of Arsenal fans, that's their ex-Arsenal manager Unai Emery. So no doubt that'll be an added narrative as well. But I mean, if Villa get through, and if somehow Arsenal get an All English semi-final, if you said it's going to be an All English semi-final this season, you'd say, well, it's going to be your Liverpool's against your Man Cities, maybe. So
Mm.
to have Arsenal against Villa would be some storyline, and then guaranteed one English team in the final. So lots to play for, huge opportunity. And the great thing you would say about the games is that nothing's really decided. You can't really definitively say which team's going to make it through. So yeah, lots to play for. I think the great thing there is that nothing is decided. There's lots to play for all the teams, and right now you couldn't definitively say who's going to be in the semi-finals. And I think that's what you want. You want some jeopardy. You want some unpredictability. And again, huge opportunity for the two English teams against elite level opposition. But it's the quarterfinals of the Champions League. These are the games that you dream of.
Absolutely. And it is. I mean, I mean, I talked about how dull the Premier League's been, but I think the Champions League is has hotted up, and you could probably sort of say that maybe there were some teams that you thought or expected to be in the latter stages, but are not. Liverpool and Man City, to name but two. But it's still so exciting. I think you've got the big guns there: Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, and Aston Villa.
Wow. Wow.
No,
Fair
but
enough. Fair
I'm
enough.
I'm looking forward to it. As I said, I mean, I've almost sort of switched off from the Premier League because it's done and dusted. So the Champions League is of great interest at this moment. Obviously, the biggest interest is the Championship, right? And on that note. We'll call it a day. It's a nice, beautiful Sunday in Blackburn. I'm pretty certain it's sunny there as well. Temperature's probably comparable. It's about 17, 18 here. I'm sure it's about 17, 18 there, or
Come on. Come on, man. Come on, play the game. I mean, we've got you beat by about 15, 20 degrees over here, mate.
All right then. All right. So as always, viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Offer your thoughts on who you think is going to win the Champions League and who's going to get promoted in the Championship. Is it Burnley, Sheffield United, and Leeds are going to lose in the playoffs? If that's the case, don't put a comment. All right then. It's as always a pleasure to speak with you, OS.
Likewise.
Take care, and we'll see you really soon.